Let's start the Racing Rewind. After it's all done and dusted, the Correct Weight Racing Review. Here's Warren Huntley, Dean Lester and Brendan Delaney.
Good morning, it's Dan Malecki. Warren Huntley enjoying a well-deserved morning off this morning, and a bit of a sleep in. He wouldn't get it too often. Nor would Dean Lester or Brendan Delaney on these Sunday mornings. Be a good morning to stay in bed. It was cold and it was foggy, and we had race meetings and different codes being called off and finishing up early. But nonetheless, I'm sure the boys would have found something else to concentrate on through the course of last night. And of course, it was a Barty party as far as Wimbledon's concerned. Dean Lester, you're a lover of all sports. It was a great day for Australian women yesterday. Obviously, Jamie Carrick-Caulfield and Ash Barty last night at Wimbledon.
That's very true, Dan. Good morning to you. It was a long day and night. I was going to have a little nap in between before the tennis, but then my beloved Saints put on a hell of a show, so I kept watching them and then straight into the tennis. So, a little bit tired on it today, and I've got to say they still wouldn't be able to race at the Cranbourne Harness Stand. Looking out the window, the fog hasn't burned off at all.
Is that right? It's amazing that it came in so early yesterday.
Yeah.
Brendan Delaney, when you're a race caller, sometimes you get a false sense of security, don't you? When you learn that it's the track inspection or the fog, pending fog is making it difficult. And I don't know why. Why do race callers sometimes think, I might be going home early? But, of course, whenever you think that, it never happens, does it? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, Dean. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, nothing like getting the early night off with the fog. It's always welcome because it's not too often that we do get to go home early. But I was out at Pakenham yesterday, and the fog was pretty much there all day. It wasn't really impacting on the races, but by the time we were driving out just after the last at Caulfield, the fog was just about to set in there. So only a short trek across to Cranbourne, but I'm sure it was pretty foggy at Pakenham last night, and it's just flowed on.
Yeah, well, it's cleared out my way at the moment to a nice day, but Cranbourne, so early, 6 o'clock, the race meeting was called off there last night at the Trots. Gloucester Park's meeting got called off on Friday night. It's been rescheduled to today, but there was doubts about the Belmont meeting going ahead with 11 races, but they got through with flying colours, and the big blob of rain that hung around Randwick yesterday in Sydney eventually got there midway through the day, so they shortened their program to 8 races, and it ended up at a real bog there, Dean, at Randwick yesterday. I know we've got an early SMS, a punter that found it pretty tough. A lot of his bets ended up in the stewards' reports yesterday, Ruby Saki being one of those.
Yes, there's wet trackers and then there's wet trackers, Dan, and by the time she stepped out, probably it had become nearly bottomless, and it was the last race that they ran. Bandersnatch is having a good time of it up there, but not so for Ruby Saki.
No, not at all. And Galileo, we lost one of the champion sires overnight, guys, at 23 years of age. A horse that has been valued at £180 million, which is more than the transfer value of Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. This is, he's going to be difficult to replace. He's got some great sons, though.
Well, he has, and his legacy will live on for a long time to come, and Galileo mares are such sought-after commodities as well. And we saw, as Ray Thomas mentioned, the son of Galileo in Harpo Marx, probably the win of the day, really, given how the track played at Randwick yesterday. He'd been working up to something pretty good, and yesterday he really delivered.
Big day for Jamie Carr yesterday. I think we'd all anticipate it was going to happen, just a matter of what race. Brendan, you would have called Jamie winning many races throughout the course of the season. It's been a great couple of years, I think, for female jockeys, and in particular for Jamie. She's just something special.
She's just got that sense, that extra sense when it comes to the horses, that she just gets on so well with them. And we've seen her throughout the course of the last couple of years be able to turn horses around that have been tricky rides. Sovereign Award, one that comes to mind. Oliver struggled with her pulling, and I think Damien Lay might have as well, but she got on with Sovereign Award and picked up a couple of races with her, and went round on a piece of cotton on Sovereign Award, who was generally a pretty, ferocious sort of going mare. So she's just got that extra sense. She gets on with them so well. She can adapt throughout the running of a race, and she doesn't seem to overcomplicate things. She just rides the horse where the horse is comfortable, and if the horse is good enough and things pan out right, she can get them pretty close to getting them over the line. But it's been a real interesting watch to see how far she's come, and what's going to be more interesting, I think, is when we hit August 1 and everyone goes back to zero, as this spurred on the likes of Oliver and Williams and maybe Brett Preble, who's emerging now with a couple of winners, getting his name back in lights. Next season, I think it's going to be a bit of a tale, this Jockeys Championship, with how it might transpire. Will Jamie beat them again? Will she be as dominant? Will she get the same rides that she got? It's going to be a fascinating watch next season.
Yeah, and it probably opens up a few more doors when you're a premiership winner, Dean, as she is this year. And we've seen her venture interstate enough. And you're talking about some of her key rides. I think the Nature Strip win in the Lightning just highlighted how classy that she is and how well she gets on with horses. Where does she fit on the scheme of things of all of the quality jockeys, all the premiership winners that you've seen, Dean?
Oh, well, she's added a different dimension. I mean, she's the modern sort of jockey, and I think that, as you said, Nature Strip probably and Cascadian highlight her skills, because Cascadian, not a regular winner, Nature Strip has that. You've just got to get him in that right rhythm, and succeeded on both of those with just one go. And look, I agree with Brendan. I think I think Craig Williams is a bit like a tennis player that's tanked the third set. He realised a little while ago he probably couldn't win the premiership, went to Brisbane. He's had a little holiday. I think he'll come out 1st of August or whenever the first city meeting is, 4th of August, and he'll come out firing. And I'm really looking forward to it, because still we don't know what travel will happen in the next 12 months internationally. We often see, a Craig Williams or a Damien Lane take stints overseas. Well, that probably won't happen. So it'll be game on right from the get-go locally.
And I got a message from Matt Stewart this morning, RSN's Matt Stewart, implications with the potential of border closure at Wodonga Albury, which is probably of no surprise, but there is a race meeting there today, so that might impact that meeting. So just keep your eyes on any news happening as far as Wodonga is concerned today. I'm not saying that the meeting's threatened, but obviously travel for those from New South Wales to get there will be interesting to see what occurs there anyway. Guys, we ended up with a good 4 yesterday. Brendan, to you, I mean, the weather was perfect. You were out at Pakenham, but you're doing your form for both venues to end up on a good 4. And how did you think the track raced?
Track raced pretty well, maybe from about, I think it was about race 4 onwards. There was a little inclination from those riders to maybe shift away from the inside and just push out a little bit, but not too often you'd expect a good 4 to be showing up middle of July, smack bang in the middle of winter in Melbourne. So I thought it might be a little bit softer than that, but getting onto a good 4's a surprise, but it's not really a surprise with how well the tracks sort of drained in Melbourne, particularly Caulfield and Flemington, that we ended up on such a good surface from an early part of the day.
Well, it was an early part of the day. The first race was at 11:50, and Zapateo started the favourite, but it was Graham Begg, a trainer who's just got a wonderful record with the first starters, Libiano, with the last shot at them.
Approaching the corner, 400 metres to go. It's Vivian, one off the fence just in front of First Division. Then came Zapateo, who looms out deeper on the track from Cherry Pick, Shame for Fame. Libiamo presenting to the middle of the course, and then Blazing Bay. Vivian at the 250 metres, joined by Zapateo. They're stride for stride. They were followed by Cherry Pick. Zapateo up to Vivian, then Cherry Pick and Libiamo. Zapateo, 100 metres to go. Libiamo and Cherry Pick are flying. Libiamo over the top will win. Libiamo from Zapateo, Cherry Pick and Vivian 4th.
So Libiamo over the top. Zapateo looked as if it was close enough in the run. What was the pace like in the first half there, Dean?
I think the pace was pretty good, Dan. You had Vivian coming across from our wide First Division, holding the spot from the inside, and I think for 2-year-olds, off-season 2-year-olds, the speed was okay. I thought Zapateo was there to win. I thought she'd had a good enough run, but you had to be impressed with the debut win of Libiamo. She had a bit to do. Probably from about the 500, you just thought, well, she's conceding experience and a start to something like Zapateo, but you'd have to be impressed with the way that she wanted to find the line. Still, pretty raw, and I think will improve with racing. I think the run of Cherry Pick, I'd sort of hadn't minded her jump outs, because Peter Moody had asked a lot of her in the jump out, so she was going to be pretty hardened for the battle. But the one thing she wasn't ready for was the way she jumped at the start. She jumped upwards, and I think it just probably meant that Brett Preble just had to give her a little bit of a squeeze to get his position, and maybe that told at the end of the race. So I thought she ran very well. Zapateo ran well, but I think the first starters that ran in the placings performed very well.
Brendan, what were your thoughts?
Thought Zapateo probably had the run of the race to win. If you were going to script the race heading towards the turn, she was probably in the right spot. Ollie just coming 3 deep on her, and she looked like she was going to do enough. It took a really good debut performance to run her down. Libiamo, as Dean's mentioned, back conceding a lot of ground to a filly with some race experience in her last 150, 200 metres. Was really outstanding. Hard to miss Cherry Pick after the way she went up in the air, and she was just used up through that little bit to get to where she needed to be. Had she landed in that spot, she wouldn't have been too far off Zapateo without using that petrol that she just had to use to dig up on the inside. She was fantastic. Vivian was okay up there on the speed, maybe just did a little bit too much work leading off the fence, but Witter was very impressive, but Zapateo, I think she's handy enough. She just might have found one better than her there yesterday.
And Dean, First Division, the filly that you got a share in there, what's the prognosis on her recovery and future?
Yeah, look, a bit disappointing on the day, Dan, and I think we might have just missed our chance. She was ready to go at Bendigo about 9 days ago, and she was a late scratching. She didn't travel up to the races very well, and I think that was probably her chance to shine. It was probably in an awkward spot just behind the leader on the inside yesterday, and as Brendan said, maybe hard on the fence wasn't the place to be all day anyway. But she was a little bit plain late night. We know that off her trials she's a lot better than that. But yesterday she probably didn't show her ability in her true light. I thought the other one maybe worth a mention is Blazing Bay. There just got speared off on the turn and got beaten a fair margin. But you'd think there's a little 2-year-old race or early season 3-year-old race in the provincials for Blazing Bay.
And Shame for Fame pulled up with a slow recovery, and co-trainer Mick Price confirmed that the filly would now be spelled. That's Shame for Fame. So that was the first event. Winner's name translate to Let's Drink in Italian, so I'm sure the owners would be doing plenty of that, and so they should be as well. Well, race 2, it was all about Jamie Carr, and this was her race and her 100th winner of the season.
Around the turn, 350 out, and Deep Speed the leader, led by about a length and a half to Pioneer River, then Zipping Boy down the middle, Dick and Middle, and also running on as Brazen Bully. Deep Speed, 200 metres to go, 2 legs. Is this the moment? Followed in second place by Pioneer River, and then a wall chasing Deep Speed, 50 metres to go in front. They're coming at Deep Speed. Is it going to hold on? It will for Jamie Carr. A century of winners from the Car of the Year. Has just beaten all of Brighton. Dick and Metal Sacred Palace in a photo for third, with also Brazen Bully.
Yeah, it was Jamie's race. Deep Speed was first up, Brendan, and he's a pretty speedy horse. He's led in every start to date, and it was a classic case of the man that shifts the post had it in just the right spot for the favourite punters and the Jamie Carr followers.
Most certainly did. I'm sure Matt had a line prepared. He would have liked a little bit more room up his sleeve than what he had at about the 50. You thought Deep Speed was going to win, and then the cavalry really started to launch. Deep Speed up on the speed, went quickly to get there, but he has the capability to do that. Maybe just that told a little bit in his finish, but a good return nonetheless. All of Brighton pretty much consistent of what we see of him. When the speed's on, he'll get back, he'll charge through the line. He was good. Love the run of Sacred Palace, ducking and diving back up towards the inside, maybe with a little bit more clearer room. He might have got a little bit closer. Brazen Bully was good. I thought Dick and Metal had the right run of the race. If you're sort of playing in the run, he might have been the one that you thought had the the right run to have first crack at deep speed and maybe go on by, but he just couldn't really muster. Piney River up on speed. His first up run was good, and then he's been a little bit disappointing. I know he got squeezed out late there yesterday, but he still really wanted to get it over and done with through the early part of the race. But all honest to deep speed, good return. You'd think he's only going to springboard off that when he gets out to 1,200 metres, but all of Brighton and Sacred Palace, it was hard to miss their performances.
First up, all the others were pretty much race fit, Dean. So you think perhaps the winner's got more upside than the others?
I'd say so, Dan. And in saying that, I think they've worked out how to really ride Sacred Palace back and as a run-on sprinter. And we know that's all of Brighton's pattern. So they're going to be maybe hard luck stories from time to time, whereas Deep Speed's got that really good racing style. So, he's a talented horse and did a good job. And just another little stat on Jamie Carr. I was looking through the stats last night, and when she gets in these close photos, and we saw it with Red Sander and just hanging on to win that race, her conversion rate from first to second is remarkable. She's ridden 101 winners in the metropolitan area, but 67 seconds, and none of the leading other five riders have anywhere near that sort of conversion rate of getting them over the line. So that's another great factor in her favour.
And Declan Bates pleaded guilty to a charge of careless riding. Midnight 19th of July to expire on the 3rd of August, total of 10 meetings. He was in a bit of a restricted room there with Sacred Palace, who looks a nice horse. I dare say that Sacred Palace might be a horse that needs that galloping room and to get wider on the track, and he might be worth following.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think they've worked out how to ride him, and he was just going home too strongly and tightened up to Pioneer River late. Pioneer River just got way too keen in the middle stages for the sort of horse that he is. He's just got to chill out a bit more than that, and then got chopped out late, so it was a forgive run for him. And Zipping Boy, his winning run came to an end. It was a big weight, drier track, different scenario yesterday. I thought he might handle it a bit better, but he was off the pace yesterday.
Race 3 was the benchmark 78. Favourite punters had put their faith into a dream, but it turned into a bit of a nightmare.
Up around the corner, 400 to go. It's Meteorite and Madame Superior, followed by Contel Maze on a length and a half off those. Then La Bella Costa, Montenegro Man's the widest. Tony Nicconi over on the far side, and Gold Spark needs a run. Meteorite at the 200 metres with Madame Superior, but they're getting tired. Contel Maze on La Bella Costa, stamping on those. And Zorro's Dream is coming through. La Bella Costa, Gold Spark finds a run with Zorro's Dream. Gold Spark and Zorro's Dream go together. Nearly a dead heat, very close. Gold Spark or Zorro's Dream. La Bella Costa prominent for third.
Yeah, I dare say. I know you were keen on Zorro's Dream, and it makes it even worse, or rubs further salt into the wounds when they miss the start. They look unlucky, and then it comes down to a bob of the head, and you miss that as well, Dean.
Yeah, in saying that, Dan, the crucial stage of the race was the home turn here. Even missing the start, the pace was generous. The winner came from back with him, but Fred Kersley went for a run and just put Zorro's Dream exactly where Fred wanted him, and Zorro's Dream punters didn't want to be. So then, ultimately, it took a punt there, Fred Kersley staying in, but it won him the race because he made the second horse have to go back and around him, and he got the neat run through. So I thought this was the ride of the day for mine. It was a sensational steer, and got the money to beat Zorro's Dream. La Bella Costa back onto the dry track, ran really well. Contel Maison continuing a really good, consistent body of work, and hard to miss the run of Melodian. Was involved in interference early in the race, ran to the line well. Melodian, essentially, in her career, has been an absolute specialist at Moonee Valley, and with Moonee Valley starting back up in 3 weeks' time, I don't think there's any coincidence that Melodian's going to be close to peak fitness when those meetings start again.
And Brendan, Nick Ryan, he's got a terrific team of horses, another city winner in Gold Spark.
Yeah, he was really flying before he went to Flemington when he was still based at Caulfield, but since he's gone to Flemington, the team have really settled him well there, and it seems nearly every week he's sending one out on a Saturday that's getting the money, so he's having a fantastic run. Dean knocked it on the head. top of the straight, vital part of the race. Goldspark gets the run. Zorro's Dream has to wait and go around, loses a length and gets beaten by a nose. So you'd have to say he probably should have won the race, but he's just starting to get a little list of excuses and reasonings why he's just getting beat. So I know he put a couple together earlier on, but he's a horse that you're going to have to take a bit of pain of just missing out to be with him on the day when he does win. La Bella Costa, really good. Contel Mason, last of the on-speed horses that was still standing at the end, done a terrific job. And Dean touched on Melodian. I thought she was really super getting through the line, and Larvina probably wants it a little bit wetter than what we had yesterday. All in all, Fred Kersley's ride won the race, and Zorro's Dream, he'll be hitting the line again. Hopefully next time he can get a little bit closer.
Race number 4, again, it was over the 1,100 metres, and Brett Preble just put his hand up to remind everyone, I did hold that record of 99.5 wins, and he got the job done on a horse that a number of people had picked out as a bit of a value runner of the day, a horse that was very unlucky at its previous start, Belciel.
The outside of High Sun from Zesty Bell, who's wide and back from Yosemite, and then came Musk Lolly, who's niggled at, and now ridden along with Rose of Sebring. Into the straight, Forever Free cuddled in the lead at the 300 metres from Madame Bolly. Sugar Town makes a line of 3. Belciel down the middle, and they were followed by Zesty Bell. Sugar Town moves up to Forever Free at the 150, then Belciel, Zesty Bell. Sugar Town, 100 metres to go. Belciel is digging in. Belciel lifts and won it. Belciel from Zesty Bell and Sugar Town, and then came Forever Free.
Brendan, Belciel, anyone doing their form would have noted how she looked so unlucky at Maui. The gear change and probably being ridden back in the field seems to have made a difference for her as she progresses.
It was a terrific ride from Brett yesterday. Got her into a good spot midfield, but really locked onto the back of Sugar Town early on in the race, and allowed Sugar Town to do the work for him, and he had something to aim up at as soon as they sort of sprinted for home. There's not much of her, but she doesn't mind having a go, Belciel. Preble had to really throw a fair bit at her, but she responded every time she was asked. Fantastic win. Love the return of Zesty Bell. A big girl you think she might appreciate getting onto a bigger track next time out, but I thought she was outstanding the way she hit the line. Sugar Town was good off that little freshen, close to the speed, and Forever Free stuck it out okay, but it was a race dominated sort of by horses one off the fence, and those that just had the nice run off a nice enough speed to capitalise, those horses in almost the front half of the field. Winner was good. Runner-up, she's going to win very, very soon. She was a second-up winner last time in, and Sugar Town, that break hasn't done her any harm. She's not going to be too far out of the money next time as well.
Dean, what were your thoughts on race 4 at Caulfield?
Yeah, look, all honours with the winner. She did a good job, and as you said, Dan, most unlucky at Maui last start. It was just whether she'd measure up to this, but got a lovely run. I think with Sugar Town, because they go so sweetly for Jamie Carr, I just thought that she probably over-raced within herself a little bit, and it was hard to really tell, but I think in the middle stages she just got running a bit when Astronomicel got up inside her, and I think might have just taken a little bit out of it, being a few weeks between runs. The effort down the outside of the Alanzara filly, Zesty Bell, was terrific, and as Brendan said, bigger track, she did win down the straight. No, I think she's come back well and ridden off the speed and ridden to run on. I think she'll have a better future. And High Sun, but she's only back 100 metres, but she just couldn't quite get that dictating role like she did over 1,200. Still think she stuck at her task quite well second up, and you know, she's going to hold her own in these mares races for a while to come.
Race 5, they stepped up to the 2,000 metres here, and we speak of the praises of Jamie Carr, and rightfully so, but gee, we've got a young lady coming through that's got a big future by the name of Alana Kelly. She rode a double yesterday, and this was the first leg on speed with Falls.
Arrow coming up to the turn at the 400 metres. It's Falls from Kingsville, but here come the cavalry to the outside. Influential Girl cutting the corner. Excel Man with Irish Playboy. Turridan presents up the middle, followed by Relucent. Still Falls at the 250. It's Game a length and a half in front of Turridan, and Excel Man back along the inside from Influential Girl at the 100. Falls is still in front. Falls from Turridan. Falls is brave. Falls has won it by a neck. Terrific win from Turridan, Influential Girl, and Kingsville.
Well, Mick Kent, we know he's a terrific trainer, particularly of middle distance horses and stayers, but Falls had never really been put into this distance range before, up from the mile, to put an apprentice on. But, gee, I thought it was so well written here, Dean, by Alana Kelly, the first of a double for her.
Certainly was, Dan, and yeah, as you said, they've been very patient in stepping him up, and that was probably my trepidation with whether he'd run 2,000 metres, because they'd been so virtually meticulous in keeping him at 14 and then a little bit at 1,600, and then made the step up yesterday and ridden aggressively. Good tactics, and Alana was well and truly instructed, I'd say, to stay off the rail, because you watch the steward's vision even over the back, she was off the rail. He just hung a little bit on the home turn, but then once he got levelled out again in a straight line, he responded well. Turridan ran well. I had my little doubts on him at 2,000 metres too, but he held his own to the line and ran well. Influential Girl, she just put a lie to her recent form. Early in her career, she was very good on wet ground, but maybe it was just going through the grades. I think maybe in this grade, she needs top of the ground, and she ran a much better race yesterday. It was more in keeping with her form over summer. She ran quite well, and then Relucent down the outside, but that's just about him. He doesn't win very often. He ran okay. No. The disappointments are out wide, and none more so than Zach has, who was sort of tracking into the race quite well, and you thought was probably going to run on and make something of his finish, but there was nothing there at all.
He pulled up with a post-race veterinary examination revealing a slow recovery. So there is an excuse there.
So the punters.
Sure punters would be experiencing the same thing later in the afternoon and also this morning. Brendan, lovely ride getting the horse home. Excelman pulled up with a slow recovery as well there. Winner's tough. A lot of other horses in that race, Brendan, tried and true at the 2,000 metres, but it was the horse first time to the distance that was actually strongest.
Yeah, I think it was a brave ride by Alana Kelly to continue to roll when she got to the lead. All too often we're seeing in these 2,000 metre races and beyond that when someone works to the lead, they really jam the brakes on it and take the sting out of the race. By continuing to roll, she made it really hard for those horses back in the second half of the field to get themselves into it. They were chasing from a fair way out, and Falls just wasn't coming back to them fast enough. Turridan, you thought, had the right run to win. Influential Girl was good. Thought King's Fall did a good job considering that he was in that little battle early with Falls and he just got a little bit keen. I thought he battled okay. Exelman, he has that excuse, went back to the inside, probably not the place to be. I think Reflect the Stars is getting close. That was her second up run yesterday. She has run well second up prior, but she just covered a little bit of extra ground there yesterday. You'd think third up she's not going to be too far away. And I know Zach has pulled up with a little bit of an issue, but I think the 2,000 might just be a shade too far for him. A mile to maybe 1,800 might be his peak, but all honours to the winner, Alana Kelly. A brave decision just to keep rolling once she got there, and it really made it hard for her opposition to get her.
You're listening to the review on Correct Weight on this Sunday morning. We're 5 races through of 9 from the Caulfield card yesterday. So we'll take a short break. On the other side, we'll be back with the first leg of the quaddie and the second leg of Jamie Carr's double.
Correct Weight, brought to you by Tabs The Lock.
New on the Tab app.
T's and C's apply. Gamble responsibly. Gamblers Help 1-800-858-858.
Tightly packed approaching the turn. Montier at the 450 led from Swindon Lass and then Flossing. There's a run up on the inside and the jock's about to use it. Into the straight at the 300 metres. Flossing went for home for Newitt. Kicked about a length and a half to Montier. Red Santa's got out. Then Swindon Lass, Asnavor and Zarex. Flossing at the 200 metres. Red Santa, Swindon Lass down the outside, 100 to go. Flossing a half length. Red Santa peppers away. Red Santa moves up to Flossing, who fights back. They hit the line. Photo finish. Flossing put the head down, or Red Santa. Photo third. Zarek, Swindon Lass and Crew Classer than Asnavor.
Well, that was the first leg of the quaddie. It was a nervous wait for favourite punters on two notes. A, the photo finish, Brendan, and then the protest. So that was probably about 15 minutes being the first leg of the quaddie and a well-backed favourite. It was a nervous period of time.
Most certainly was. Lovely ride from Jamie Carr from three back the fence. The seas just opened for her and she was able to get away through and get Red Santa into a striking position. I think maybe that little bit of interference that there was helped Flossing more than anything when Jamie just had to steady up and straighten out Red Santa. It allowed Flossing to give a little bit of a kick and get maybe a long neck in front at that stage and have her chance. But Red Santa, the stronger late, second horse, has done a really good job coming through on that inside section, but did have a nice enough run back there over on the inside. Thought the run of Swindon Lass was really, really brave. She covered a stack of ground, has only gone down by 2.5 lengths, and she's done an enormous amount of work compared to the first two across the line, which were 3 and 4 back the inside. Zarek's another one that was a good run, took off a long way from home, covered ground, and was really put into the race from about the 600 metre mark and had to make a long sustained run. Asnavor, I know, was a big price, but disappointing. Followed Red Santa, couldn't grab onto his coattails. Didn't mind the run of Crew Class A. It was a good win at Donald down the outside, bouncing off a maiden there to yesterday. It was a little bit of a tired finish in the end, but I think there's something to work with there. Only having his fourth start, you'd expect her next time in to be really strong around this distance range and beyond.
Dean, Red Santa came through a slightly different form line with those runs in Sydney. At least we've seen some of that benchmark form, which seems to stand up okay. But overall, the depth of these staying 3-year-olds that we've had through the course of the winter, there's been virtually a different winner each week.
Yeah, it's not like last year, Dan, when Persan won every one of these races. So, yeah, look, I think Red Santa's handy enough and did a good job, and the second horse, Flossing, ran well yesterday. The filly I liked a bit at a price, hell of a deal. She got on the back of Vibrant Glider, and probably Alana Kelly would have expected that horse to take her into the race a bit further, but he was dropping out at that stage, so then she had to switch around heels and momentum was gone. I thought she ran quite well, and Brendan mentioned Crew Class A ran quite well down the outside. I thought her effort was quite good, but first two had a little bit of a margin over the rest, but not quite of that standard of last season.
Namakwa was a late scratching at 1:15, twisted a plate on course and was deemed lame, so it missed out on a run. Its form had actually been pretty good going into that race, so a veterinary clearance will be required before it races again. Race number 7, I thought this was a really good story on two fronts, both from the trainer and the jockey, Jack Hill, who'd ridden a winner earlier on in the day. He got Scottish Dancer home to win at Caulfield after his first winner was at Pakenham.
Jittery Jack into the straight, left the fence at the 300. Strategic Phil gets up the inside. Thought of that as chiming in too, about a length off the leader. Tan Check has run up behind them, and then Betcha Flying and Chief Eltony down the outside. Jittery Jack grabbed by Tan Check, then Thought of that. Scottish Dancers flashing home. Tan Check at the 50 on the outside. Scottish Dancers coming home hard and got up. Scottish Dancer from Tan Check, Betcha Flying. Photo fourth, Jittery Jack or Thought of that.
Scottish Dancer. Early on, there was huge raps on this horse, Dean, and he sort of went through the wilderness a little bit, but Andrew Bobham's really got him on track. Andrew had his first starter, I think, in November of last year. He used to be a cameraman based in London for CNN, and he's also played an NRL game for St George Illawarra, and his base is now at Lake Fynes, just out of Stawell.
Yeah, and doing a great job. Andrew was foreman there for a while for Matt Kumani, and he's really, he's taking these horses that are tried, and as he said yesterday, a lot of them on their mark, and you're just trying to make something of them. But this was a horse that if you got him going, he was going to be a bit of a headline act because, as you said, he's a talent. And yesterday, this was the highest pressure race of the day. They went at a really good gallop. And on straightening, you looked at Think and Fly and Chief Eltony and thought, well, they're going to be the swoopers. Well, the one that was on their backs has run straight by them, Scottish Dancer, and that was a genuinely good win. Tanchek just balked for a run at a pretty important stage of the race. Got back to the inside, ran very, very well. He's overdue for a city win. He's going to win one soon, and I bet you Flying was a better run. The two that I mentioned down the outside, though, are hard in the betting, Chief Eltony and Think and Fly, and I thought with how the race was run, they'd probably kick on a bit better. I'm pretty sure Think and Fly's a better horse at Flemington or the bigger tracks, so maybe you forgive there. And Chief Eltony, I wasn't quite sure what to make of his run because Scottish Dance has given him a start and a fair beating.
Brendan, you would have seen Jack Hill ride his first winner at Pakenham earlier on in the day, and we interviewed him just before we went through the review, and he only had a short period of time to make it from Pakenham to Caulfield. Lucky it wasn't a night meeting because the fog would have really impeded him getting there on time.
Most certainly would have. Something you see every now and then on a Saturday, whether it be maybe Werribee or Geelong, the provincial. The jockeys can go between two meetings, but did get a little bit of surprise when they were behind the gates, and I looked at the form guide and seen Jack Hill. I'm sure I called him not all that long ago, but he did the double yesterday. And Scottish Dancer, I think, maybe just a change of scenery and maybe getting back and just being a horse again, I think, out at stall has probably helped him. He looks like he's not the easiest horse to ride, and there's a little bit that goes to him. He needs to be outside, as Jack touched on earlier, and have his own way, per se, to really launch. But he's in fine form, and he looks like he's a happy horse at the moment, and his racetrack performances are reflecting that. Tanchek really good. Just found one better than him, probably. Betcha Flying was good. Jittery Jack, that was a really good run for him on a dry track. Generally, when we see the best of him, it's on some rain-affected ground, but I thought he's starting to find a little bit of the form that we know that he can produce with his run last time at Flemington, and then again there yesterday. They're much better. There might have been a little issue early on in the preparation, but he's starting to get around where he was when he was really racing well last time. Thought of that, probably had his chance in behind. I think Chief Eltony, when you're trying to break it down and make excuses for them, would have liked Think and Fly to really drag him into the race a lot further than he did. He was the disappointing one for the race, but then it's really hard to try and justify that case when Scottish Dancers came off their back. And well, you go back and watch a replay, he wasn't really travelling, Scottish Dancer. He was on and off the bridle, and Jack really had to get him revving from about the 600 just to stay in touch. And then when he got to the outside, he decided that it was time to go, and off he went. But trying to justify a case for Chief Eltony and Think and Fly, but it's hard when Scottish Dancer comes off their back and then puts four on them pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Very impressive, and well done to both Andrew Bobbin and to Jack Hill for that win yesterday. For Roll the Dice Racing as well, Dane, they got a really good horse back again, because they would have been excited about his future very early on. He looked a horse to have the X factor.
Yeah, he won, I think it was Benalla, he won on debut, and he ran some really exceptional races, but he's always had that bit of a habit of wanting to lay in, and as Andrew Bobbin and both Jack Hill mentioned yesterday, that behind them he doesn't really want to go, but once he gets to the outside and he's got clear air, he can really let rip, and he's wanting to do it now. So yeah, no, it was quite a good day for Roll the Dice with that winner, and even a winner in New Zealand with English Gambler winning. So a good day for the syndication group.
And Jittery Jack, when he's in a race now, at least you expect a pretty genuine tempo. He can set up a pretty brutal speed, can't he? If there's a wet track at Moonee Valley and a nice mile race for him in about 3 weeks' time, you reckon that'll be right up his sleeve?
You'd think so. You remember back to the day that he won that last race before the meeting was called off in August last year, when he just got on that leaders on track and just ran them into the ground. So for him to be doing what he's doing on the dry is a bit of a bonus for connections. But if, as you said, Dan, if they get that wet track, he's right in play.
Gee, he would have been at home at Randwick yesterday. He probably would have been in race 9, though,
Yeah.
And he got called off. The feature race on the card yesterday brought together a really good field. The Sir John Monash Stakes, race 8 at Caulfield.
come to the turn. 450 out. Melkovich for Jamie Carr, led by a length Red Can Man. And then came Ashlaw and Villamai to the middle of the track from Dexalation. Then Tactical Advantage and down the outside, Order of Command and Innkeeper. It's Melkovich, 200 metres to go. Led 3/4 Red Can Man, who's peppering away. Villamai the outside at the 100. Melkovich just in front. Red Can Man levels up there stride for stride. Red Can Man beat Melkovich, Villamai, Photo 4, Innkeeper, Dexalation involved, then Viridine.
Gutsy win by the West Australian now with David Brideoak. Brendan, David's had a terrific few days. He had a winner on Thursday. Cranbourne, a winner on Friday at Sale, and of course Red Can Man bringing it up. So a stable in form, but also a very good racehorse.
Yeah, most certainly. Second time over from Perth. We'd seen him competitive in some listed and group races over there, and a race that was dominated by those at the front of the field. And he just had the sit on Melkovich and was a little bit stronger than him at the back end. Looked as though he was probably going to get away with that for a stride, Melkovich, but he was really brave, Red Can Man. And once he got motoring, he was really good to the line. Villamai had the right run, just couldn't get near the first two, and then the next lot of horses across the line really weren't in it. Innkeeper, Dexalation, Viridine got a mile back and had a little bit of a checkered path through, but by the time he was looking for somewhere to go, the race had passed him by. William Thomas, a little bit disappointing back to the inside. I thought just the way that race was, he might have been able to finish off a little bit better than that, and Propel's run well, but again in the same sort of boat as Viridine. The race was passing them by when they were getting out and looking to start their runs. But it's going to be interesting to see where Red Can Man can go. He's up and rolling, and these back end of the winter, early spring races, he's going to be a horse with a full head of steam up and have fitness on his side, and the connections might be able to take advantage of that over horses that are just coming back in.
Dean, is there a bit of scales of justice about this horse without all the injuries?
Yeah, I was thinking that, Dan. I know Connections knocked back a very big offer for him about this time last year to come east, and they've decided to bring him over virtually themselves and send him to David Brideoak. And I think with the great prize money offer for a race like the Memsey, with hard fitness on his side, go to the Bletchingley and then the Memsey, you'd think he would run well. I think Melkovich was a good run, stepping out of 3-year-old grade and into a weight for age race. I think Brendan's point about Villamai, she just couldn't get control of the race, and I think she needed that to win, and she was sort of always chasing, and then the group. I think Viridine, as Brendan mentioned, a bit of a checkered passage in that he was just angling for runs and building his momentum, and then had to go sideways, and I thought on the line he was going quite well. Now, he won the Bletchingley last year. If he runs into Red Can Man again in 2 weeks' time, would he be able to beat him? I'm not sure, but he certainly, I think he's set up well to run well again in the Bletchingley next time he steps out.
Some of the runners that were earlier on in their prep, Order of Command, always looked as if he was probably going to have to cover ground. He did, but it might have been the run he needed as an older horse now. Traditionally, he's had a good first-up record, but the barrier draw wasn't of any help to him. Can he progress from that first-up run?
Oh, I think so. It's always hard to tell off the screen, but to me, he looked like he was carrying plenty of condition, and I think a day at the races will have tightened him up really nicely, and he'll go deeper into the later part of winter, early spring with added fitness off this run.
And the other one I thought was pretty good, Brendan, Innkeeper, a horse that you would have seen plenty of, traditionally known as a soft tracker, and while the track was rated good, it probably had that minimal amount of give in it, but he seemed to run pretty well, upholding his decent form this prep.
Yeah, he's really turned it around, this preparation. He was in the wilderness for a long time with some of his runs. He was in the spring, and then earlier on last winter, he just sort of wasn't, there mightn't have been everything all well with him, and looks like they've ironed out any issues there might have been, because he's really flying this time in. He was coached across the line to win first up, and then won the Wongoom on a softish track, and then Swan Hill, he was just okay there, but that was a dry track maybe. This Caulfield track yesterday might have just had that little bit of cushion that he needed compared to a Swan Hill good fall, which is probably pretty firm at the back end, at the first day of the carnival. So, no, he's going really well. You would think if he could find a soft track, he's not going to be too far away now that everything seems cherry right with him.
And he did start at 100 to 1. The last, and that was Innkeeper we're talking about there. So well done to Red Can Man. I see in a few photos on social media, there's a can of Melbourne Bitter that's usually put up in reference to Red Can Man. So might be the symbol that goes with him throughout the course of the winter and the spring. Last race looked a pretty competitive race, and it certainly turned out to be that way. And it was King Magnus and the 3 kilo claim. Big help for King Magnus, and it brought up double for Alana Kelly.
And Great Duchess runs up behind them. Titan Blinders at the 250 takes the lead from Scantoon. Then King Magnus down the outside, running on from Shot of Irish. King Magnus moves up, takes the lead from Scantoon. Jumbo Asaki back to the inside at the 50. King Magnus, Jumbo Asaki, they're going to hit it. King Magnus beat Jumbo Asaki. Photo third. Shot of Irish or Scantoon involved.
Yeah, put the writing on the wall last start, Dean, King Magnus. He had pretty good form last preparation as well, but I'm sure that pulling the weights was a big factor also.
Huge factor, Dan. You've only watched the replay. They nearly look like they're two different sort of beings. King Magnus tiny compared to Jumbo Ozaki, and I think the weight relief off that last run, and the fact that obviously he had that mishap when he buck jumped at the first up run, so he got no benefit from that run, and yet he ran well last time out. Added fitness, dropping 7 kilos, and it was probably the key factor that he had race fitness on, say, a horse like Grinzinger Ali. He'd been behind Grinzinger Ali when they met in the summer, but he had the little bit of race fitness on his side, and I think that probably told Jumbo Ozaki it was always going to be a bit of a tricky draw because he's so big and the inside draw. And I thought Fred Kersley made the best of an awkward situation. He got held up for about 100 metres, but still sort of kept a little bit of momentum going. I thought he ran to the line really well. He was a touch unlucky, there's no doubt about that, but it was always going to be a little bit the case. And his stablemate Grinzinger Ali, I think in an ideal world, Jamie Carr would have liked a little bit of a card into the race from about the 800 being first up, but she had to actually get around Mr. Tippler, who was going nowhere, and put him into the race. And I think his fitness probably gave out in the last 150 metres.
And Brendan, Shot of Irish, gee, it was a terrific run. He's got to be one to follow. He caught wide without cover fresh, and he's only going to get better when the tracks get wetter.
Yeah, you would think so. Good run for him on dry ground. He's got an okay fresh strike rate, but you would think maybe a wet track second up. He doesn't go too poorly second up either. He's yet to win second up, but he's always thereabouts, and with that run under his belt and doing the work for the winner there yesterday, you would think he's only going to improve. Good to see Jumbo Ozaki back, a horse that showed a lot of promise, and he just couldn't put it all together for a little bit there, and he's getting back towards some winning form. I thought Scantoon was a good run covering ground. Grinzinger Ali just got that little bit too far back. Arkham Knight closed it off well again, but perfectly executed by Alana Kelly. She got into a good spot off a nice tempo, got herself a nice ride into the race, and produced it at the right time. She's really riding it in terrific form.
Guys, we'll get the run of the day and your horses to follow shortly. Other racing around Australia, anything take your interest, guys? I'll just before you do, the Rockhampton Cup yesterday, $150,000 race, and Waterhouse Bott took a horse to Rocky. It's a fair drive from even Brisbane, let alone coming from the Randwick stables, and they got the cash.
You wouldn't like to be covering the float bill from Randwick to Rockhampton. I'm not sure the prize money would probably cover it, but yeah, it was a long way to go, and but they were able to get the job done. But yeah, wouldn't like when the bill comes in, the float bill's going to be an expensive one.
Lucky they won then, eh, Dean?
Well, that's true, Dan. I think, is he the brother to Lincoln Rupee, I think, Regal Stage? So, yeah, he's had an interesting history and winning the Rocky Cup yesterday.
Yeah, and a $150,000 race it was. We briefly mentioned Rubisaki yesterday. That track at Randwick, no fault of their own. It was always going to happen, I think. But when a track gets that heavy... can you read into it any way, shape or form?
I struggle with that, Dan. I think the biggest worry for me is if a horse is first up, it's had a really tough run in that ground, whether that knocks it about. But if a horse has been going well and it fails on that that sort of track, you sort of can put a bit of a line through them usually.
And we're looking at a pretty good race meeting today. Actually, it's a good Sunday race meeting. If you've got anything that you like anywhere, Dean, or you, Brendan, you please let me know right now. Otherwise, I'll steer your attention, or as well, the Sunshine Coast meeting today is a ripper with a couple of those races that were called off last week. We've got the Glass House and also the Winx Guineas and the Caloundra Cup.
Yeah, it's a terrific meeting, isn't it, Brendan? And with held over for another 8 days, but the fields have stood up really well.
Yeah, nice to see them back at the Sunshine Coast on a Sunday as well. We've, although it is a feature meeting, we've had them at some smaller, lesser tracks, but always good to get them back onto the Sunshine Coast. Howard Waltz will be along in Sunday Central with his look at that program, and it's a really strong one. Just having a quick look across the Wodonga card, doesn't look from a jockey point of view that there's going to be too many issues with border closures and the like. There might be a couple of horses that if any restrictions are brought in that might come a little bit hairy, but from what we can just see at a brief look down, it looks like all the jockeys will be okay, but there just might be a couple of horses that, if they do really crack down tight later on this afternoon, might have some trouble getting across the river.
Yeah, there'll be an interesting day there, and pretty tough to have that meeting there today. But anyway, look, it might work out, but just keep your eyes peeled for any alterations to that. Anything at Ballarat today, Dean?
Dan, there's a few short price favourites, but maybe the one that's, I think, a backable price of the favourites is Strip Back. Race 6, number 1, looks to have trolled up well on the wet ground at Stall. Brett Preble and Lindsay Smith combining pretty well. So around the $2.25 at tab.com.au, I think is a pretty good price.
It sounds like the one out in the quaddie today. Wouldn't mind your opinion on our Caulfield and Melbourne Cup favourite Incentivise and the remarkable journey this horse has had to go from a beaten favourite or second favourite in a maiden at Toowoomba to then go on a winning sequence like we haven't seen in a long, long time. We know he's exciting. Dean, do you expect that he should just measure up and should be the favourite for those big races?
I think for the here and now, and with the unknown of the international travel, that he should be, highly regarded. I'm interested in how such a big actioned horse will go around Caulfield. That would be my one query on him of the Caulfield Cup, and then a horse, running the 2 miles of a Melbourne Cup's a different challenge. But when you look at the markets, the likes of Realm of Flowers as well in the betting. Kamari's obviously an international traveller, Explosive Jack. Amade, we've only seen a couple of times for Philip Stokes, has created a terrific impression. And then, the likes of Very Elegant would either go to Cup, I wouldn't have thought so. So, it's a very interesting year and a real chance for a horse like this to jump onto the scene very quickly and maybe, win one of the features.
I saw Peter Moody briefly yesterday. I was nearly going to suggest or ask him if he was tempted to take the blinkers off and put one of those nose rolls on, Dean. What answer do you reckon I would have got?
Oh, he will. He will. I mean, it's just keeps their nose warm anyway. I said, and they're easy to see in a field, but he loves them, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does, and they are much easier to see in a field. The little things race callers appreciate. Brendan, what have you made of Incentivise?
I thought he's been good, but it's another step up to be backing him at $11 now in a Melbourne Cup off a Brisbane winter campaign, beating up on horses that aren't the same as they were when they were at the top of their game. So he's been impressive, but it's another step to take to come to Melbourne. And the conundrum we've got of who's going to come out and take him on from the overseas raiders, but then you've got horses like Finch has been there and thereabouts in Melbourne Cups, and I know he's going to have to carry weight, but he's been right on the heels of the internationals of late. I know he's a year older and the like, but then horses as well like the calibre of the Chosen One, horses that have been there and done it and been competitive in these races before are being pushed to the back of our minds because they're they're not in work at the moment. Surprise Baby, not everything's gone right for him. If it does come out, do you want to back Surprise Baby at $34 at the moment, or a horse is in incentivised that, is an $11 chance but is an unknown in this grade? If you're betting at the moment, there's horses with better credentials that have been there and been thereabouts that you get a lot more value out of now than maybe incentivise.
Okay, well, now it's time for our run of the day and horses to follow from yesterday's meeting at Caulfield.
Let's wrap up the Correct Weight Racing Review with the run of the day and the horses to follow.
Firstly to you, Dean, run of the day?
Highest pressure race of the day was the Scottish Dancer race, so I'll make Scottish Dancer the run of the day. And the horse to follow for me, Dan, is Melodian, with an eye to that upcoming reopening of Moonee Valley, where she absolutely flies. I think she's not far off a win. And
just recapping that best again at Ballarat, our one out in the quaddie today?
We'll probably go two out in that quaddie, but we'll have one bet. We'll main bet on Strip Back, race 6, number 1, and Doker's the other one we'd be putting in the quaddie, number 11. But I think Strip Back will be winning.
Okay, race 6 at Ballarat. Dean, thanks very much for today, and look forward to talking with you soon.
My pleasure. Thanks, Dan.
Dean Lester there, and Brendan Delaney, what was your highlight of Caulfield yesterday?
I was tossing up between Scottish Dancer and Libiamo. Dean went with Scottish Dancer. I'll go with Libiamo. That was a tremendous debut performance to come with the finish that she came with to score there. And a horse to follow, Zesty Bell. I thought her run was really good. She's going to appreciate maybe getting to Flemington. If it's down the straight or round the circle, you'd think she's not going to be too far off winning this preparation.
Okay. Brendan, you're just getting warmed up. You're going to take us through the remainder of the Sunday morning, looking at all the race meetings. Good race day today, so ears should be tuned in to you for the next couple of hours. Have a good morning.
Thanks, Dan.